everyone. Good morning, good evening, and also good day. I'm Henry Wang Huiyao, founder and president of CCG and host of CCG Global Dialogue Series. You are watching Forum online program advancing the 2030 agenda in uncertain times, sustainability and quest for the China-U.S. cooperation, featuring the Honorable Secretary Henry Paulson and also Mr. Wang Shi. Mr. Paulson served as a 74th Secretary of the Treasury under the President George W. Bush from July 2006 to January 2009. As a Treasury Secretary, Paulson led the nation's response to the financial crisis in 2008, helping to stabilize the global financial system and avoid the second Great Depression. He also designed a strategic economic dialogue to revitalize the way U.S.-China relations was conducted, achieving major breakthroughs on currency manipulations, trade flows, and environment, and global financial stability. Prior to that, Mr. Paulson had a 32 years career at Goldman Sachs, serving as a chairman and CEO beginning in 1999. As a banker, he grew the Goldman Sachs presence in China. Today, he is the chairman of Paulson Institute, which aims to foster a U.S.-China relation that maintains global order in a rapidly evolving world. In 2021, Paulson helped launch and become the executive chairman of TPG Rise Climate, the climate investing platform of global private equity firm TPG. His leadership of TPG Rise Climate reflects his belief that there is an urgent need to accelerate action against the climate change and that innovative vehicles for private sector's financing will be essential for meeting the challenges. Mr. Paulson is also co-chair of the Paulson Institute Economic Strategic Group, co-chair of the advisory board of a Bloomberg New Economy Forum. He also chairs a number of leading environment NGOs, including the Nature Conservancy Board of Directors and its Asia Pacific Council. Also, Mr. Paulson is the author of two bestsellers. One is that On the Blink and Dealing with China. The other book is Dealing with China. She is also the co-author of two books with former chair of Federal Reserve Ben Bernanke and former Secretary Tim Geithner. So I would like to also introduce Mr. Wang Shi. Mr. Wang Shi is the senior vice chair of Center for China and Globalization, CCG. He's the household name in China. He founded the Vanke in 1984 during a period when China's private economy barely started to develop. Under his leadership, Vanke has grown into the world's largest residential property and developer by sales revenue, and also is the pioneer of China green home construction. A devoted environmental conservationist and practitioner of CSR, Mr. Wang Shi has also created and led many influential environmental advocacy groups and charity organizations. Chief among them is the Society of Entrepreneurs and Ecological, known as SEE. He had been involved in global climate governance since 2009, having practiced in the United Nations climate change, participated in the United Nations Climate Change Conference and other programs. In 2013, he was elected the first Chinese board of directors of World Wildlife Fund. From 2011 on, he studied business and ethics across the cultural research at the University of the West, in the West, actually, in Harvard. I know that I was there at the same time, and became a visiting scholar also at the Cambridge and Hebrew University. Mr. Wang is widely known in China for his passion for mountain climbing. He literally set the trends for scaling Mount Everest and Antarctic expedition in China. Mr. Wang is the author of 5 books. So Secretary Paulson and Mr. Wang are all dedicated conservationists, and both are leading a financial and philanthropic course to address the climate change and biodiversity loss. With less than 10 years left to achieve the 2030 agenda for sustainable development goals, the world needs to pick up the pace and also put great efforts in finding the better solutions. The environment agenda, which is core to the SDGs, will depend critically on the ability of the world's two largest economies, the United States and China, to find a path towards partnership on climate action and ecological conservation. In less than 60 minutes, we're going to tap into their insights on sustainability issues, climate finance, and US-China cooperation. So without further ado, let me turn to Secretary Paulson first. Mr. Paulson is joining us from Chicago on the evening of June 19th. Happy Father's Day. So probably, Hank, you can have your open statement. Welcome to CCG Dialogue.
Okay, so Dr. Wang, I want to first make sure you can hear me.
Yes.
I could hear you coming in and out sometimes more clearly than others. But if you can hear me, let me say how delighted I am to see you again and to be on a program with my good friend Wang Huiyao. I'm a big admirer of Wang Huiyao and have enjoyed working with him over many years. Now, in terms of the Paulson Institute, when I set this up in 2011, I set up an independent think and do tank with the idea of sparking innovation, creativity, economic policy changes, environmental policies changes to help promote sustainable economic growth and a cleaner environment around the world. And my focus was on US-China, because I believe then, even though the relationship wasn't as troubled as it is today, I believe then, as I believe now, that this is the most consequential relationship in the world. And here we're talking about the two biggest economies, the two biggest carbon emitters, energy users. And to me, if we're going to make progress in these areas, it's important that we find ways to work in complementary ways. And so again, the Paulson Institute was focused on pooling ideas from both countries, developing solutions that would help lead to advance economic growth and economic policy and a cleaner environment in both countries. Now, you cited the Paulson Prize, and that's one of our initiatives. And here, the Paulson Prize is designed to identify in China innovative, scalable programs that can promote the sustainable urbanization and a clean environment. And I think we've done a pretty good job of developing best-in-class programs. And here, again, the focus is on helping for China's transition to a sustainable, cleaner economy. And we focus the prize in two areas, which is green energy, green energy, and a focus on conservation stewardship, nature stewardship. And so that's a quick overview. And again, it's something that's very important to us.
Thank you, Hank. That's great. I mean, that's a great start of the introduction of the Paulson Institute. We know that actually CCG has supported the Paulson Prize for Sustainability in the past years. And I was actually at the award ceremony held at Bloomberg's New Economy Forum in 2019 in Beijing, and you were there. And so CCG is very pleased to become a partner of this program last year as well. So it's great to see both of you. And I know you are the mastermind behind this prize. And of course, Mr. Wang is a member of its jury committee. So I understand that you both recently met in Chicago. So maybe I can tell us how did the synergy come about? So 这个王石，我知道你现在在这个欧洲有。
So, Mr. Wang, you're in Europe right now. This is a very great journey in Greek. This is 4 o'clock in the morning, your local time, and Paulson. The Paulson Fund and also the relative activities for the sustainable development. You're also one member of the panel of the judges for that prize. So please share with us your synergy and also your recent activities. Thank you. So having this chance to meet with Mr. Paulson online is very valuable. It's fair to say that in early May, I embarked on my journey in Europe. And this journey is actually a journey started from U.S., from Washington, D.C. to Chicago, Boston, and all the way to New York on the vessel, actually, and I'm still on the way. And right now I'm in Athens. And yes, for Athens, yes, this is the cradle, one of the cradles for civilizations of human beings. And right now, here I am, I'm in Greek. And this is also the place with very popular activities on canals. And it's going to last to the end of July. And this is a very important stop. U.S. is very important stop. After Washington, D.C., there's another stop that I'm going to come by in Chicago. And there are 5 lakes. And the connection of the 5 lakes and the canals, that's going to be a very splendid journey as well. From New York, and New York is one of the biggest ports in U.S. and also one of the biggest financial centers in the world as well. And I was attending several environmental protection and conservation activities and conferences in Boston. And one arrangement is for the speedboat racing, and also visited the homes of Henry Paulson, and also it impressed me a lot. That memory impressed me a lot. So the beginning moments of meeting with Henry Paulson is also very impressive. About 18 years ago, it was about 2004. At that time, Henry Paulson is the CEO and the chairman of Goldman Sachs, and a very influential financial leader. And I am also a leader in the delegation of a businessman of China. And SEE is the organization I set up. In terms of the environmental protection and conservation, well, both of us have great passions. But of course, we are still lack of experiences. In terms of the teamwork, we also are a very late starter. So we signed the strategic agreement with the TNC led by Henry Paulson. I still remember that was in the Great Hall of People in China. And this was actually the official first moment or first time we met with each other.
We didn't talk much. What impressed me most is that at that time, at Wall Street, investment bankers were not very focused on green technology or environmental protection or ESG. However, Mr. Paulson was very much focused on that. And that impressed me a lot because he was both a financier and an environmentalist. And over the years, we have been working together with TNC, and our group has grown from 100 business people to over 1,000. And we've learned a lot about environmental protection and ecology and NGO governance. And in China, close to 1,000 NGOs have been supported by us, and ICE has become a large environmental foundation in China. Having said that, I'd like to talk about myself. In 2002, I was mountaineering, and I went to the highest peak in Africa, and I didn't see any snow on that peak. Actually, it should be snow-capped, but I didn't see any snow. The conclusion I got was climate change and global warming. It is not just that peak. I also went to the South Pole and North Pole, not as cold as I expected. I remember that when I traveled to the South Pole, we stayed for 20 minutes without any clothes on my back. And since then, I've decided to do environmental protection. And I participated in large global NGO activities. And Mr. Paulson is always there. And we know that in the United States, there are some large NGO organizations, and Mr. Paulson is the person that can connect those large NGOs together in the United States. So you asked me how I met Mr. Paulson. He said that he set up the Paulson Institute in 2011. At that time, I was a director of WEF. And some large U.S. NGOs went to the Paulson Institute in Chicago to coordinate their activities. Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Wang Shi, for your very impressive story and your meeting with Mr. Paulson, and both of you getting involved in environmental actions. It seems that that's a very good case for U.S. and Chinese entrepreneurs getting involved in environment.
So what I'm saying is actually, Hank, according to the UN 2022 Asian and the Pacific Sustainable Development Goal Progress Report, at the current rate of change, none of the 17 SDG objectives will be achieved in all 5 sub-regions. So from your experience working in climate action and biodiversity, what are the possible solutions to this? Actually, I mean, you've been advocating for economically and environmentally beneficial market solutions to decarbonization. What is the role of private sector in responding to the climate change? What role should the financial institution play? Actually, you know, like I was also talking to Larry Summers. He was saying the World Bank, I mean, AIB, ADB, all the other banks could play more roles. So what do you think of the private sector financial institution roles?
There's a lot of discussion about the role of the private sector. To me, climate change is the major predictable crisis that our planet faces. And this can only be solved if government and the private sector work together, right? Governments can do research on climate, they can set policy, but only the private sector can implement those policies, roll them out in scale. Only the private sector. And so let's start with the private sector. It seems to me that the private sector, there's a number of things. First of all, financial institutions need to do a better job of developing climate financing techniques and models. They can do stress tests. I think financial institutions need to disclose the impact of investment, right? Positive and negative impact on climate. So that's pretty clear in terms of that. Venture capital firms can do a lot of work in terms of develop breakthrough technologies and get them ready to scale. That's pretty clear. Also private equity firms. I'm the executive chairman of a TPG private equity firm, and they can put capital behind climate solutions that are proven to accelerate the development of those. But you need to begin with the fact that private sector can't do it without the government policies. It's going to take trillions and trillions of dollars the governments don't have. That money needs to come from the private sector, correct? And it's not a sustainable model for the private sector to make loans or investments that are going to make losses. So the government needs to create the regulatory environment. I agree with Dr. Summers that one of the biggest things that needs to be done is to reform the multilateral development banks and the Bretton Woods institutions. But there, the governments need to come together and change the charter so that these institutions have the financial resources and the technical resources and the legal framework it takes to do the work that they need to do. So what I would say right now, the sector is well ahead of governments, and that there's a lot of ambition in the private sector, but if we talk too much about private sector, it takes the focus on what needs to be done, because governments need the political will to put the policies in place that are going to let the private sector be successful.
Great. I mean, thank you, Hank. You made a lot of great initiatives. I think that has been very dedicated to this thing. I think that we need global business leaders and financial leaders, and as you said, government, to really all work together. NGOs combined to really achieve this sustainable development consensus and also efforts to that. Now I'd like to talk to Wang Shi.
Okay, Mr. Wang, last year you went to COP26 in Glasgow. So what is your biggest takeaway in this conference? So, for example, the low carbon economy. What is your take on the carbon neutral economy in terms of how such economy benefit both business and environment? So it's fair to say that last year in COP26 in Glasgow, I was attending that conference, and I also for the first time organized the executives or senior executives of Chinese businesses. And from 2009 all the way to 2019, I was organizing the businessmen on behalf of China's businessmen to attend the China's conference in Glasgow, in the COP conferences, including Glasgow conference of last year. It's fair to say that it's a very great achievement and a lot of takeaways. And the number of the conferences and meetings of the COP26 regarding China is increasing year by year. So with the China senior managers, the conversation was very good, and we reached consensus among us. And the COP26 is the conference with the biggest number of the attendees, about 25,000 attendees attending the conference in Glasgow. And this is in the official meeting, and after the meeting, there's also a lot of activities surrounding the COP26. It's fair to say that every day we would see numerous meetings and conversations being held, also including China's delegations and activities, and also a lot of attention has been spared to China as well. That is my impression, and my biggest impression, or left the biggest impression to me for the 12 past years. And last year, due to the COVID, we have to get COVID test every day. And all the organizations and countries, delegations are very passionate about the conference. And on the COP26, a tropical forest protection declaration was launched. And we want to wait and see for the final achievements and how this declaration ended up. And we need to see how actions were taken instead of just lip services. And at the same time, we feel that although we know there's a lot of imperative issues in front of us, but still we have to strike the balance of the different interests and also the interest of the different stakeholders. So the agreement reached by all stakeholders is very difficult. Nobody knows what will come until the last minute. So this is really a valuable and hard-earned declaration in the end. For example, US and China and EU, the conversations and explorations on the future solutions for cooperation is always continued. And without the participation by either one of them, there's no speak of the collaboration in the end for the climate issues and many other issues related to this. But still, I'm very positive about this outcome. China's businesses and China's businessmen or entrepreneurs of China, they also have expressed their feelings and opinions in the COP26, and they have shared the stories of the 4 decades of reform and opening up of China. And in the first 2 decades, China was mainly featured by the fast development or the high growth rate of the economy. And so that has been acknowledged by the world. And in the second 2 decades, activities of low carbon development also initiated and embarked on. So the private businesses initiated the journey, and the state-owned enterprises initiated their own journey, and they combined their journeys together. And MNCs and private sectors and public sectors, they combined their efforts together. And that's why the environmental conservation and natural conservation have achieved a lot of achievements. At the same time, the government and the private companies and public companies, they have to join hands together, just being alluded to by Mr. Henry Paulson, that the passion and also the endeavors need to be generated, and also especially from the private enterprises. So the consensus and also the declaration and achievements reached by all stakeholders and governments in UNFCCC COP conference is very important, especially on the climate summit and also in the climate related conference. China needs to demonstrate its own features and also demonstrate its own achievements as a demonstrative to other countries. And also we also need to have other countries to know our own features and traditions as a foundation for further collaboration between each other. So I think more and more we will see opportunities like this. On the other hand, China's NGO also continue becoming stronger and stronger. We have witnessed their strength on COP26 as well. In the past, the NGO's participation was not that strong, but on this COP26, we have seen a very strong participation and endeavor made by the NGOs of China, and they become more and more influential. And the third positive takeaway is that the youngsters are the future of all kinds of endeavors. We have also seen the jointly launched the United Coalition of Universities, sort of like this, have been launched last year. And this is also very important to demonstrate the strength of the youngsters from this young graduates from the universities as well. We have also seen the organizations organized by the university students and scholars, young scholars, and they made a lot of speeches on the COP26 conferences as well. And we have had the activities both online and offline, participated by a lot of young scholars and students from universities and colleges. I think the journey ahead of us are full of bumps. And China is also have a long way to go. The 2030 carbon peaking and 2060 carbon neutrality, the dual carbon goals are in front of us, which is very arduous. And China's 2060 and other advanced countries are normally 2050, 10 years left behind. Probably we can set the deadline a little bit earlier than scheduled. But I think 2060 is the realistic deadline. Even 2060 is very arduous for us. But on the COP 26, China's delegates have made the commitments that we would try our best before 2060, carbon neutrality will be attained by China. And this is a realistic target, and we'll try our best to attain that target. So I think this is really good environment created by all delegations. And this is also very positive to push forward and promote the future initiative. And China's NGOs and China's organizations played a very big role. As for my participation, on my part, I've expressed that I, not only on behalf of my company, my group, Banco, but also I'm on behalf of the different sectors and industry of China,